Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome to another Digital Transformation Talk Series hosted by Zuru Information System. For more than 10 years, the company has been helping business owner leadership teams grow their business and make more money by leveraging digital solutions. My name is Kenneth Koh, and I'm the moderator for this session. First, let me highlight the formats of today's sessions. Immediately after the opening, our speaker will be sharing for 45 minutes before we have the interactive Q&A sessions for at least 30 minutes. Participants are welcome to post their questions anytime in the chat and address during the Q&A sessions. Please note that all the mics will be muted throughout unless you are invited to speak. Ladies and gentlemen, digital transformation is the adoption of digital technologies to change the way we do business. Is such a hot topic today simply because 7 of the world's 10 most valuable companies today rely on digital transformations. They are Apple, Amazon, Alphabet, Facebook, Microsoft, and from the East, Alibaba and Tencent. They create a strong branding that lives among all of us, both in the B2B or B2C world. Like the Chinese say, 家喻户晓, branding comes to life in the 20th century when radio and TV become popular. Radio and TV stations look to revenues from advertising. Today, internet has taken over as the dominant media. In year 2000, digital marketing blossoms when search engine became the main manners for us to look into the information on the internet. Social media and smartphones later got people hooked online. Today, digital marketing is brimming with opportunity to reach the online community. So, do customers buy because of digital marketing activity or your branding? Today, we are fortunate to have our guru in digital media, marketing professional, to share with us 2 things. First, why messaging is so important to influence customers to purchase decisions, but that's not sufficient. It takes the right message and the right time and aim at the right audience for a positive impact. Our speaker, Mr. Nick Goh, is an experienced digital media marketing professional, having worked for major international advertising agency and notable local agency over the last 25 years. Nick heads a training agency and has conducted marketing and digital marketing related programs in Singapore and Hong Kong for creative media and marketing professionals. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Mr. Nick Goh.
Thanks so much to Kenneth for doing the introduction, and I feel very honored to be here to share some of my knowledge as much as I can, given this short time frame that I have with you. Okay. Now, a bit more about my background, just very quickly as well. I mean, currently right now I'm a branding and digital marketing trainer and advisor. I've been doing this for quite a few years as it is, but my last port of call before doing this, I was actually the former CEO for Yellow Pages Consulting, and I'm still an advisor to Yellow Pages itself, as well as an advisor to Magnet Partnership, which is a Hong Kong agency. It's also based in Singapore as well as still currently right now I'm still an adjunct senior fellow at the SUTD Executive Education Department, as well as the SMU Academy, where I'm an academic member and trainer there. Now, if a bit more about myself in terms of the number of years that I have doing all this. I mean, I've been very much having 25 years in brand strategy and advertising and marketing under my belt. As what Kenneth had mentioned, I've been working in local, creative, and multinational agencies, in particular EuroRSCG and the Low Group, which is a UK-based multinational group. And the kind of clients I work with over the years have been a range of B2B, B2C clients from the F&B market, hotels, technology, more so technology, because I've actually done a lot of work with technology-based companies, telco, particularly Singtel, luxury cars, aviation, and non-profits as well. So in terms of my trainer background, I mean, I'm one of the very few within my industry itself that would have an actor as well as being DAY certified as well. For those of you in the training industry, you probably know what DAY stands for. But moving on in terms of the other area of my life, I'm actually looking more towards as well, besides just training and being a practitioner, I'm also going into research as well. You have to, but it's just a natural progression as a practitioner and trainer to go into research. And I've recently just presented a conference paper on AI, employment, and segmentation, which was accepted by a prestigious conference group called Frontiers in Service. And I was a co-research paper with Dr. Yusuf Osi at King's College London. So that's quite cool, and it's another exciting area that I'm looking forward to actually be doing in the next couple of years. So just very quickly about my B2B client that I've actually worked with over the years. I've been quite fortunate to work with the likes of Advanced Micro Devices, Juniper Networks, Cycle and Carriage, particularly Mercedes-Benz, IBM, Cloudera, Raritan, Splunk, very recently Splunk, Switzerland, which is the Swiss travel transport arm of Switzerland itself, of Swiss tourism that is, Red Hat, Microsoft, We Are Social, Prudential, and also the likes of Cisco as well. But more importantly and interestingly enough, for SAP, we were one of the few to actually develop the marketing services bureau for SAP. For it to be used as a way to integrate and work with the strategic partners or the channel partners, particularly for the all-in-one and business one solution. So it's an interesting experience that I've had over the years for the B2B based clients, and I hope to be able to impart some knowledge to all you listening in, as well as hopefully be able to inspire you to think more digital when it comes to thinking about your own business as well. So I think, and just a few slides about me before going on into the meat of today's discussion, so at least you know where I come from. I'm also very much involved in award shows and being a judge and jury member. And I don't want to belabor this point, but I think the key thing to share here from a brand component is that I recently just judged the ASME Made with Passion in Singapore. So I've been quite fortunate to be a part of that judging panel. And if you guys are interested to connect with me, please connect with me on LinkedIn. You can scan the QR code or just type in Nick Goh in LinkedIn and look for a bearded Chinese guy, which I don't think there are many on LinkedIn that is, having a beard like mine, which I think I find quite frustrating sometimes because I think I just want to sometimes just shave it off and not bother about it in the morning. But anyway, it stuck with me for quite a while. Okay, moving on. So today I'll cover things like, for example, 6 areas, and 6 quick areas as well. This is not meant to be a training session. This is meant to be just a sharing session. So I'm going to just share some areas that that's meant to trigger your curiosity. It's meant to maybe inspire you to think a bit differently, and hopefully it may even rub you the wrong way. If it does, that's good. Don't feel frustrated. Just find a way to ask questions and interact with me as well, because it's all about continuous learning, right? Life is about that. So today I'll touch on very quickly about marketing. Then I'll go into keeping the process simple, followed by some B2B considerations, just a little bit of a teaser. Then we'll go into some branding considerations, and then I'll share some examples, and then we'll go off and end off with a Q&A. I think we've got a very interesting panel of people for you to actually ask questions and to just have that interaction there. Okay. So when it comes to marketing itself, and just very quickly about marketing, some of you are very familiar, some of you may not, so forgive me if this is too simple for you. I think when you think about marketing, you have to think about how marketing is about value creation. And that value creation is about your company itself being able to deliver value, right? And also to be able to communicate that value. So what communicates value and what delivers value? So we look at it, you think about it, right? Your brand communicates a value, whereas your product delivers a value. So immediately you can see that there's this symbiotic relationship between the product and the brand. One delivers, the other communicates. Okay, and I think when you think about it further as well, marketing is also about building relationships. And many of you who are in the B2B sector, you do realize the importance of building relationships with either the manufacturer, the principal, or the retailers that's actually meant to deliver your solutions. Or some of you may even be dealing directly with the end-user customer as well, right? But the key thing here is to think about building profitable lifetime customer or client relationships, which is important. So you think at the very beginning when I mentioned about delivering value, communicating value, and now building lifetime customer relationships. Okay, so think about these three simple terms and it can impact your relationship. And what I normally like to share with whenever I train or whenever I engage clients, because I do consultancy work as well, is that imagine your relationship with the end user, the relationship with your client. See it as if it's a relationship you're trying to build with a real human being. That you are a human being, your brand, your company is a human being trying to deal with another human being. What will you do? What's important? What are you trying to deliver? What are you trying to communicate? What are you trying to build in terms of that profitable lifetime relationship of having that long-lasting friendship, or eventually going into a marriage proposal for that matter? Okay, so think of it that way, because many of you would like to have that long-term partnership, that marriage with a key partner in your ecosystem, right? So that's the laying the ground, the simple ground rules there, or the simple foundation about marketing, right? Now, let me share with you some add-ons to that for you to think about the process. So in marketing, there's some processes. In fact, there are a lot of frameworks, okay? And sometimes it's just, you have so many frameworks that sometimes some of you who are trying to go into marketing just don't know how to begin because of all the amount of frameworks from strategy down to implementation. But I want to share with you a very simple one-slide, one-page framework for you to think about. Okay? In fact, you can snapshot this as well. So this is basically based on how you should think about communicating effectively, right? So look at this Venn diagram here, and you have four concentric circles. I haven't had my coffee yet. One is right target, right message, right time, right media. Okay? And when you think about it, right, in fact, this is very much Kotler, right? If you're familiar with Kotler, this is a very Kotler approach. Right target, right message, right time, right media. Now, in order to make this operationalize, you have to think about whether you have a marketing strategy, an objective, and a KPI to walk through these four areas so that you can then try to optimize it when you run your marketing campaigns. More specifically, when you run your digital marketing campaigns. Because digital marketing campaigns or activities require for you to measure and optimize some kind of measurable number, okay? A measurable KPI, in other words, okay? So I want you to just think about that. What have you been measuring, if you've been measuring any, or you have not, maybe you may want to start asking yourself, what could we start measuring in order to achieve that objective, to achieve that marketing strategy, okay? So it's for you to think about that, right? And now going into, say, an area of right target, what do we mean by right target? So just imagine, is it effective to target everyone, or to focus in and narrow in on a particular segment? Now, when you narrow in on a particular segment, right, for those of you doing B2B, you're talking about persona building, right? So you're focusing on a particular segment to do maybe account-based marketing, right? And based on that persona that you're trying to build under your account-based marketing, assigned to a team to actually manage that, you know how to speak the right, to bring up the right benefits to that particular segment because you're very focused. That leads to the next point about the right message. Do you have the right message to trigger that reaction with that particular segment? So are you making sure that that message is on brand, on product? If you're representing a principle, which is a brand that you're bringing in, then are you making sure that you're on brand for that principle? But then again, not forgetting your own brand as well, to make sure that is there a way to bring in your brand into the equation to make sure that there is some longevity to your engagement with that particular persona that you're trying to manage. Now, then I want you to then think about, is there a possibility when you craft these right messaging, right? Is there a way that they can work in things like behavioral nudges? And some of you maybe who read very widely, you may have come across terms like behavioral nudge, behavioral economics, which is basically what behavioral nudges are. Are you able to work in some of these concepts into your messaging? Concepts like, for example, loss aversion or FOMO effect, anchoring effect, right? Are you able to work this in to strengthen the way you engage your audience, engage your persona, so that you can convert them to buying your product or buying your service or buying into that contractual relationship? Okay? Then you must also think about the right time. What is the right time? Is it the calendar time you're referring to? Or is it based on the era that we're in? So the era that we're in right now, which is very important to be aware, is actually the COVID time, the COVID-19 era, which then may have also triggered, and some of you would have experienced, some kind of economic crisis as well, right? So how do you then manage the messaging to that persona they try to manage, given this economic situation that we're in right now, given this crisis that we're in right now, given this COVID environment that we're in right now? What can you say to manage a possible sway to your benefit? Okay. And last but not least, where do you want to place these messages? Where should it appear? Should you try to engage them on LinkedIn? Should you try to engage them on Facebook because you're trying to build maybe a community? Or are you trying to engage them by email because you've got a strong, very familiar and very strong email base that you want to use to market to your clientele, to your customers? So what kind of media is right contextually for your business, but more importantly, for the objective that you have in mind, right? Because remember the very first slide that I shared. Let me go back to that. If you look at the top left corner of the screen, you'll find that there is the notation of marketing strategy and objective and KPI. Always ask yourself, are you achieving that? Are you making sure that whatever you're doing in managing these four areas, are you still achieving the objective? Are you still managing the strategy in order for you to achieve the KPIs, okay, or the success metrics? So with that, let me just now go into the next area, okay, of B2B considerations. Now, I'm not going to go through every area. I'm just going to cover a few areas. So I'm going to walk you through first what I would normally do. I would do a customer journey mapping, and I would share with you what that mapping is to give you an example and possibly to stimulate a sense of curiosity for you to find out a bit more and to do it yourself, hopefully, right? So I'll go through that version of a customer journey, which I would use, and then I'll talk about some important aspects of SEO for B2B, for email marketing as well, and also the importance of reviews. I think we all know how important reviews are, not just only for consumer marketing, but also for B2B marketing as well. Okay. So let's talk about the consumer decision journey, and this is the bulk of it is a McKinsey model. Okay, but I've decided to also alter it slightly when I show you another example of how the McKinsey model can be adapted. In fact, whatever models you see, in fact, the models that you see here right now, feel free to adapt according to your situation, right? Because models are meant to be adaptable. Yeah. So let me just quickly walk you through this. First of all, remember the persona that you're meant to already have built and are aware of how to reach out to. Now, you must ask yourself, what is that trigger for that persona to want to consider your product, to want to consider engaging your company, right? That's important. So the trigger is important, but the trigger is relatable to the persona, okay? Then as that trigger kicks in, what do the brands, or what do those individuals from companies, what brands come to mind? What companies come to mind when they think about it, okay? So there will be some companies that will come to mind in terms of trying to help them resolve this trigger that has been created, yeah? Then after getting that trigger stimulated, what would naturally happen after that? Now, from a consumer point of view, you would want to evaluate. You want to go online and search about it. No different for B2B as well. You definitely want to check out a bit more about the companies that come to mind, or you may want to go and search for more companies that come to mind that may help resolve this trigger that you're trying to address. So maybe to go to Google search, you ask for recommendations, you go for reviews. When people give you some recommendations, you go back and search for them on LinkedIn, you do that at Google search. So the process within this stage of active evaluation is going to be very to and fro. It's going to be back and forth, right? It's a non-linear approach towards really evaluating, gathering information, trying to understand whether you have the right initial brands that came to mind. If not, are there new brands that you're discovering, or new products, or new companies you're discovering that could address the trigger? Okay? Then you go into the purchase, and you start to actually buy the product itself, right? After you've made the evaluation, you've narrowed down to a particular company, you contact them, you work out the deals of that arrangement, and then you purchase from them, right? And after which that you have had a successful contractual relationship with them, and you have goods being delivered to you, the next step will be the experience of that relationship. What was that post-experience like? Was it good? Was it bad? How was it? Were there learning points for you to appreciate what could have been done better? And if it was done well, or the experience was good, then it'll go into the loyalty loop. And the loyalty loop will mean that you come back and continue to work with you, to continue to have that strong relationship. Now, if it's a contractual relationship, then the post-purchase experience will be the duration of that contractual relationship. How do you manage your client during that relationship itself, right? And what are you doing to manage any possible cognitive dissonance? In other words, areas that may rub wrongly with them because maybe there was a bad experience with a consultant, or maybe the goods didn't receive well, it was late, the goods were delivered late. How would you do to manage the expectation of your clients, right? All right. So that's in a nutshell your consumer decision journey, right? So let me show you based on an example. And here in this mapping of the consumer decision journey based on a local example, I've also put in two other elements that I find it to be useful to augment this consumer decision journey by McKinsey. Okay, so first thing is the trigger. As I mentioned, what triggers a persona? So for example, let's assume that the trigger is retailers in need of more computer gaming peripherals, for example. Okay, and as they think about trying to get more gaming peripherals, because it's a huge esports market that we have in Singapore, right? Then the initial consideration would be which distributor or company comes to mind. Would they go direct to manufacturer, or would they want to go through a distributor to actually get the product itself? Which would be shorter and quicker and cheaper, more efficient, more effective for them to actually make the decision, right? But certain brands, certain companies will come to mind. And then with that, they'll do an evaluation, possibly. They'll check with friends, they'll check with friends in the industry itself. They may do a Google search as well. They may check out reviews by going to the company's Google My Business page, or maybe going to the company's website as well to evaluate what sort of business they're into as well. They may then further go back and do a word of mouth. They may ask recommendation from peers. They may go to forums. They may go to their social pages to find out more about the business. So if the consideration is high because they're going to go into a contractual relationship, perhaps, right? Then they will probably spend a bit more time to learn a bit about this company, to spend a bit more time to understand the operations of this business itself, so that they are then comfortable to go to the next step. And the next step could be, after they're shortlisted, to select a brand that they feel is best represented by this particular distributor. Maybe this distributor is exclusive in carrying this particular product in Singapore. And they also found that maybe upon the initial contact with that distributor, that the customer service is excellent. And they're very impressed by that because they find that the whole company culture is also reinforced because whatever they read on the website, whatever they've seen on social media, and they experience in the initial dealings with the company, they find that it's very much aligned with what they believe in or what they have experienced. So the experience itself would more or less lead them into having that comfort and the assurance to go into the next stage. And the next stage is to have that moment of purchase, to sign an agreement, to work with that distributor to have products ordered and delivered, maybe via a B2B web store which would then manage the client's so-called possible cognitive dissonance. Why? After the initial contract is signed, having a B2B web store, it could mean that the retailer can go in at any time and just order without the worries of having to contact someone at the company, but only if they need assistance. And maybe the assistance could come in other forms, and I'll share later. So then what will happen next will be making sure that there is a elimination of the cable guy service problems. Okay, the cable guy is actually, if you remember Jim Carrey and the cable guy, he's always this rather irritating, idiosyncratic character that would just frustrates people who need to have a cable guy service, right? So the idea behind the cable guy issue is to avoid that Jim Carrey character, right? So you want to make sure that your products are delivered professionally, on time, and without giving the customer, your client, any cause to have that cognitive dissonance that, oh, did I choose the wrong company, right? So you want to avoid that, right? So, and that's important to also manage because you're trying to eliminate and prevent any reason for your client to actually say, maybe I didn't get the right partnership here. Maybe I may need to consider down the road when we need to review, right? So when you look at the post-purchase experience, as I mentioned, depending on the relationship that you have, the contractual relationship that you have, then how are you managing that particular client, right? Are they going to give you positive feedback, negative feedback? And can you take that feedback and then put it back to the principal, to give the principal that much needed information about the product, of which then you're also then managing your principal is what the manufacturer. If you are the manufacturer, then it's you trying to get as much information and positive feedback from your retailers that's actually selling the product to end users. Okay, and then if you have that long-term customer relationship or the long-term contractual relationship, the question then is this: what are you doing on a periodic basis to make sure that they always know that you're on the right track? That they know that they got the right company that they're working with, okay? So would there be like training for salespeople? Would there be incentives for the salespeople, for example, right? And last but not least, loyalty. With good client service and a good product to market to retail, it's a no-brainer. I mean, you're looking at, how can the retailer with large orders provide sales staff training, for example, or incentives to increase sales? So again, because they're happy with the management of the account, what else can you do to build that loyalty to ensure that they come back and to ensure that that relationship is strengthened, right? So think about incentives, think about possible staff training for the clients. So this is just generally the simple mapping of the journey. And within this journey itself, some of you may think that, okay, in my own business, I can identify certain touch points. Each of this stage is a touch point. But some of these touch points are moments of truth. In other words, they are a potential for you to build stronger relationship, stronger stickiness with your client. What are those moments for you? Is it the post-purchase experience component where you can build a stronger stickiness, or the loyalty to build a stronger stickiness with the customer, with the client? If it is, then what can you do to craft more meaningful experiences? Okay, so just think about it. Right. So you look at the opportunity for marketers. One,
don't forget your segmentation or your persona building, right? Because you need to be targeted and focused. Secondly, do you have a CRM solution to manage and monitor your customer lifetime value? Do you use LinkedIn? Are you using a non-business social media? And why are you doing so as well, right? If you're using it for building of, as I mentioned earlier, community building, then it's something worthwhile looking into, because you may have a community that you want to build, or a community you're building on behalf of a retailer itself, right? Why use YouTube? Do you need to show videos to explain how your solution needs to be managed, or how you are managing how your products can actually be understood using YouTube as a form of quick learning bites about your product or your solution itself? And are you using that? Or do you have customers or clients asking you, do you have such videos that's available on platforms like YouTube? Okay. And let me just go on to the next slide. Do you also then consider using digital advertising? If you would, why? Will you be using it to support your principals, because they want you to run campaigns on their behalf to target an end user market? Are you using then brand ambassadors or micro influencers, or are you using not so much KOLs but rather KOCs, key opinion consumers, right? Where the average people, like every one of us, we are all a KOC. But are you using these KOCs to drive the shareability of experiences, so that they will say, oh wow, a real person actually likes this, and this real person got a small select, a group of friends and family that they are very close to, and as they share content to these individuals who then share content out, right? So then are you working on that kind of approach to build that kind of end user relationship that will benefit your principal? Okay. Are you then also then, based on that approach, are you then also using user-generated content? Again, encouraging the likes of the KOCs or the influencers you're using to encourage their followers to then create and generate content that will be beneficial for your business, right? Or for the end user, for the principal, or you being the manufacturer. Then, are you using also search engine optimization? Because remember, if someone is searching about either a B2B contractual relationship with you, or they're searching for a B2C product of which is important for you to market to on behalf of your principal, then what would come up in the search results? Would it be the desired web page that you're trying to direct traffic to in order to work towards a conversion? If you are, then think about search engine optimization. Think about how are the habits of the people you're trying to reach out to. Do they use the search? Do they use Google search, for example? Do they use Bing? Do they use Yahoo to search? And then what sort of results would come out of that search? And based on the keywords that they're searching as well. Yeah? Then are you using, if that is yes, are you then using search engine marketing? Right? And if you are using search engine marketing, then how are you using it to manage that kind of a search behavior, right? So you look at it just on a simple keyword search. Yeah, you have something like where to buy game consoles in Singapore, right? For example, and then you can see a whole list of opportunities to buy game consoles. Sorry, I'm actually a gamer, so I like to search stuff like that. And also because one of my friends runs a gaming channel in Singapore as well for the region. So that's quite cool. And I think when you think about links, you must want to think about links to your site. So you think about SEO and you think about links to your site, you think about inbound traffic or inbound marketing. And why is that important? Because you want to make sure that that particular page that you're trying to optimize, right, it's actually searchable, or it's valuable to people looking for that kind of content, right? And also, is that particular page in some ways also linked to a potential, maybe your principal? Is it linked to other relevant articles that have talked about your particular involvement in this area to add more credibility to that web page so that it becomes more searchable over a period of time because people are talking about it? So then are you creating relevant, valuable, and meaningful content? And the other thing that you may want to find out as well, if you're representing certain brands for your principal, is your principal helping to amplify keywords in your territory? If they are, what keywords are they amplifying, and what else can you add to that amplification of keywords as well? Okay. And then, is your principal also running any shared media? For example, are they running PR or getting bloggers or are they getting influencers that they can talk about certain relatable activity for your product itself that you guys are working together on to push certain keywords, which is then attributed to the web pages that would have the content that you need to push out to market towards that either end user or to the or to a client that is looking, like a retailer, for example. And are you then running any such activities for your principal? If you are, great, because then it's about working together symbiotically to actually ensure that you're not. I think the key thing is here to think about is that try to avoid duplication, right? So the reason why you want to find out is to avoid the duplication of the efforts of your principal versus what you're trying to do with your own team in Singapore, right? So, and I think another important point to think about is that is your team then creating goal conversions in Google Analytics? And the reason why is that, but goal conversions is an actual term that you can do, it's an actual activity you can do in Google Analytics to monitor and measure the performance of your key marketing activities that you're driving towards your website itself. So when you create a particular campaign or you create a particular activity, like maybe an email exercise, you direct traffic to your landing page, what happens thereafter? Are you creating goal conversions for that particular email campaign in order to track what people do on that landing page moving through your website? Okay, so just take note. Goal conversions, is that being created in Google Analytics? So this is just a screenshot of a Gmail. This is not mine; it's just taken off the internet. As you can see, the link is below. And so the question to ask is this: why is email marketing important? I know some of you may have questions about, but you know what? There's a lot of spam, there's a lot of PDPA issues and all that. But think about, if you're going to do email marketing, the rule of thumb is this: do you have a known database of email contacts that people have actually said yes to because they are your customers? In other words, you wouldn't want to start to rent a database. That's what you don't want to do, because those are people that have got no association, no knowledge of you as a brand. They don't trust you as a brand because they don't know you. So emails is important because people have to open and engage emails from a trusted source, a brand they are familiar with. Think about it. When you receive an email and you go through the list, what are you looking for? Oh, familiar name. Not familiar name, delete. Familiar name, okay, open. Unfamiliar name, delete. So it must come from a familiar source. So that's one important point to remember. Really avoid renting a database. That's I would recommend not to do, because it's really going to be money down the drain really if you're going to renting a database. Now, when you run an email campaign, you must think about, do you practice lead scoring? So are you using an emails marketing solution that allows you to do lead scoring? Now, what is lead scoring? Just very quickly, lead scoring is assigning a value to what the user from your email contact is meant to do on your landing page, so that when they convert, let's say for example, because your product is of high value, or you're trying to get new clients, so you're asking them to maybe download a PDF to learn more about your business. Did they bother to go through certain activity on the landing page, like watching a video, like maybe viewing certain elements on your web page itself, on your landing page, and then as they convert by filling in the form, a certain score is given to that individual. If a person goes in and straight away fills up a form without doing any of the prescribed activities, then that lead is quite likely not a hot lead or even a warm lead. It could just be a cold lead. But if the email contact went through every single item that you have actually scored, then it's very likely that contact that fill up the form is quite likely a hot lead, because he or she have actually filled up all the elements on that particular page. So is lead scoring important? It is important. And are you practicing it? Is your email solution allowing you to do that? Okay. Then you think about, are you measuring vanity metrics like open rate? Are you managing like click-through rate? Are you managing the hard bounce, soft bounce over something that's more important? Capturing what is the leads that you're trying to capture? Are you doing a conversion activity? Are you trying to sell a subscription package on the web page itself? What are you trying to do on that web page, on the landing page? And that should be the key metric you're trying to measure, and not the vanity metrics. Okay. And last but not least, when you think about email marketing, right? As I mentioned about the quality of leads, ask yourself, who is going to follow up on those leads, right? So if you've got a hot lead, if you can identify hot leads based on the lead scoring, then don't you want to put or assign a manager who is very good at closing, because he or she would have a very high customer acquisition rate? So think about how the follow-up process should be in order to ensure you got a high client or customer acquisition rate. Okay. So just a quick visual flow. You got the email. You got are you familiar with the context? Don't get rented database. Under the landing page itself, are you trying to improve content because maybe it's not doing as well as it should? Are you trying to strengthen behavioral bias to get people to convert, right? Are you ensuring that you've got more than one email version that can lead to more conversions? We've actually ran email campaigns for clients before, and when you run an A/B testing of versions, you can see that one version tends to perform better than the other, because you're testing, for example, headlines. One headline will be maybe more hard selling than another headline, and one of them will actually do better than the other. And then from that learned experience or learned experiment, you can then decide what to do for the next version. Okay? So always remember the key mantra in digital marketing. In fact, in any kind of marketing, it's about experimentation, but more so with digital marketing, because you can track. You can track the performance, and then you know how to change it. In this case, you have two email versions, for example, to be sent out to your database. So you segment your base into two groups, for example. Yeah. Then, as I mentioned, you practice A/B testing. You can even do A/B testing on landing pages as well. Yeah. But it depends on how detailed you want to go into your A/B testing experimentation. Okay. Last but not least, always remember, whenever you send out you do your email blast, right, and you have your email message, your EDM, as some people like to call it, your electronic direct mail, please ensure that you deploy UTMs, right? So you don't do auto tagging, you do manual tagging of your emails, so that you can define clearly the different versions. One of the beautiful things about UTM is that you can define the different versions of your emails, and then you can see how those different versions perform in getting traffic to your landing page as well. So there are a few ways to further understand the performance of your email campaigns, not just through lead scoring, but also through UTMs as well. And the thing with UTMs, you can further track where they go after going into the landing page. Right? And can you do remarketing? Yes, you can remarket. So I think in fact, I wanted to talk more about how you can do some remarketing, but I think I'll keep that for a separate conversation. And I'll explain to you a little bit more about what I mean by a separate conversation, right? And that will come towards the last part of the session itself. Now, the last thing I want to talk about for under B2B consideration is about the reviews. I think reviews are so important, whether it's consumer-based marketing or it's B2B marketing. You can see the quote over here, 92% of B2B buyers are more likely to purchase after reading a trusted review. If you replace that with B2C, it's the same. We all would always, before buying something, we want to go through a review. No different for B2B buyers as well. Okay, and this comes from a reliable source too. And a lot of you, thinking about it, you know it's true. Before meeting a potential contact, what would you do? You go to LinkedIn and check out this contact. Learn more about this person. Learn more about the company as well. That is really you're doing a search about the business. And if you come across reviews, you definitely want to read about it, good or bad. You want to learn more about the company that you're dealing with, right? So we all look for reviews before making a consumer purchase. you likewise when deciding on working with a firm. No different, okay? So I think you think about it, how do you manage reviews? Well, there are a few ways, right? You got your Google My Business, which is very standard. You got LinkedIn, which is available because it's a business social platform. If you're selling items on various platforms, then you got shopping platforms as well. And I think, and are you using other relevant review sites for your business? And the thing is that if you are, then what are those review sites that are you trying to manage, right? And I think if you think about it, try to understand how those different sites that you're managing are important to the overall ecosystem that you're trying to manage. Yeah? Again, think about the segmentation. If it's B2C, think about persona building and account-based management, marketing, if it's for your B2B, right? Then last but not least, branding. And I think when you think about brand, I'll cover this very quickly. Is that in the brand system, as business owners, right, don't only think about the graphic identity. Don't only think about, oh, my logo must be this shape, my typeface, my corporate, my font type. Because sadly, in some circles in brand consultants in Singapore, they tend to focus on in this area, which is not wrong. It's part of their bread and butter as well, right? So they tend to focus more on this area, and the availability bias is that is probably the right thing. That is probably the right thing when it comes to branding. No, it's not. Branding are these three elements here. So there's only one dimension of branding. The other two dimensions, which is very important, is what your brand stands for. So if you are the owner and you typify what your brand should stand for, then the brand should come from the values that you believe in. Okay? So that's your brand concept. What is the values of your brand? What is the values of the brand that you are trying to put forth to the market? What are the values you're trying to cultivate in your own company itself? And then the other dimension, which is very important, is the product and service experience. In other words, the products that you sell, the services that you impart, would come with a certain level of experiential engagement, right? Does it align with the brand concept that you have created? And can you then use the graphic identity to further give that visual coherence of the entire system? So that's how you should see it. Don't just see from one dimension, see it as a total three-dimensional approach. Okay? So I'm just going to skip through this because I just explained it. Okay? So these are the three areas that you're going to look into. Now, under brand concept, you can look into these areas more specifically. And just very quickly, the intangible values are your mission, vision statements. One area which I like a lot is the brand rituals, which I actually do a separate training on. Now, brand rituals are key because they help build the culture, and you can also transfer that to your clients or your end users. But more importantly, it's shareable on social media as well, or it should be, right? And the other area that would help in your content or your messaging creation is the personality of your brand. What is the personality of your brand? How then you use that personality to frame or to dress your message? Think about it, yeah? And then the tangible values are very simple. The benefits to the customer, the benefits to your client. What are the benefits to your customer or to your client? Right. So one more slide before sharing some examples would be this. When you think about your brand system falls under what's known here as your brand identity. Why is this important? You look at the extreme right, you have brand image, customer image. Your customer or your client would have an image of your brand. What distorts that image are three things: the community you're building, the competition that tries to upend your message, and how you communicate your brand or your principal's brand through these areas of messaging, right? So if it's not consistent, then it becomes a problem. So if it's not consistent to your brand concept, if it's not consistent to the graphic identity as well, it becomes a problem, right? So think about it from a holistic point of view. So you think about it, for a brand, it's about retaining and attracting new talent. Why? Because you're talking about the concept you're trying to build in your organization itself. You think about investor relations. Are you managing investor relations or managing financial bodies that are basically supportive of your business? Are you dealing with relations with your principal, right? Are you dealing with media relations? Is that important? And also to help manage your principal. Are you dealing with government relations, right? Because of the nature of your product that you need to manage the government's legal matters relating to your business or to the principal's brands. So be mindful of that. And I'm just going to go through some quick examples, and then we're going to end off, okay? So Singapore, you see this. When you see Singapore, Singapore is a halo effect and it primes. Because I've spoken to some B2B companies, and they said that because we sell in the Indo-China market, for example, the business partners there that buy our products, and this is actually based on household products that actually I've spoken to a particular business owner, and this household products that this business owner represents says that because we are from Singapore, people trust a Singapore brand. So the halo effect of Singapore and the priming of Singapore being a very trustworthy, reliable country is transferred to this company and the products that they represent that comes from and is made in Singapore as well. Okay, so Singapore is important, and how do you use it to your advantage, right? Another thing is culture. Some of you may be familiar with Zappos. Zappos has built its culture around the concept of happiness, so much so that there is this strong coherence and solidarity within the company itself. I would urge you to read more about Zappos if you haven't heard about them. If you have, dive into their brand culture, even though Tony shared the founder have passed on, but the culture still lives very strongly at Zappos. Okay? The other thing which is interesting that I want to share with you is the Singapore's Ben & Jerry's. And Ben & Jerry's, when a Singapore company pitched for the franchise of to manage a franchise of Ben & Jerry's in Singapore, they made sure that the name that was trying to win this franchise was aligned with the Ben & Jerry's philosophy. And that is the company that Wong Tun King actually created, which is called the Happy People Company in 2005. Let me just zoom into this. So he created a company called the Happy People Company. Now, how we know this? Because we actually had conversations with the marketing team some years back, and they were sharing with us this whole story behind how they actually won the franchise, and it was a very interesting story as well. Okay, so the brand is important in trying to align with the principal as well. If the principal sees, this is important, if the principal sees that they're looking for partners that are aligned with their philosophy and with their vision as well. So Ben & Jerry's is exactly that. We also worked, so this is actually a real case that we worked with when we were asked to, in the early days, to create a brand image of Bell Helicopter to target the China market. Okay, and we did so much to the surprise of the first engagement that we had there, when the public Chinese security minister walked in, saw what we created, went and picked up the simple brochure that was created and said, wow, you understand the China market very well. The backstory to that is that we didn't have a Chinese copywriter. We had an English concept. We spoke to a Chinese copywriter team. We told them what we wanted. We managed a whole outcome. We told the client as well. We've never done aviation before. But it's all about understanding the customer journey, understanding the needs of the brand, and understanding the needs of the market, which is the China market, and then crafting that solution around it. So again, we remember the 4 circles in a Venn diagram. You need to apply that. Okay. Now, let me share this with you, and some of you may be familiar with esports. Is there a problem in esports? Right now, no problem at all. It's a huge booming industry, of which I am a participant and a viewer and a casual gamer myself. But why I'm sharing with you is this: as a business owner, as a marketer, you need to also preempt situations. You need to think of black swan situations or the unknown unknowns, right? Why? Remember Coca-Cola? Now, Coca-Cola, at one stage, no issues. Everyone's happy with Coca-Cola, right? In fact, the only thing that Coca-Cola was worried about was Pepsi, the key competitor to Coca-Cola. But now, is Coca-Cola worried? Not worried. They're worried about the sugar tax. They're worried about changing consumer habits or wanting to have a more healthier lifestyle, right? And I think that's the area that if you are a brand or you are a company dealing with a principle, with a product that has a touch point with consumers, right? Can the consumer behavior or habits change due to certain conditions that you may not be monitoring or you may not be aware of? And do you need then to be aware of such possible changes in behavior or habits? So that's something which I'm sharing this for that very purpose, for you to think about the situations that could impact the nature of your business because of the changing consumer habits. Okay? Sorry, I'm going forward. So then, how will your brand manage this change, right? So I think there is a company that I'm actually talking to right now. It's a local firm, and they acquired a multinational firm. And the interesting story behind this is that they didn't bother about their brand because they felt that they were getting enough work from the clients that they already had that they already have from that acquisition. Okay, but later on they then realized that they needed to have a focus on their brand in order to reach out to newer clientele. And they found that people or the clients that they were trying to engage weren't really engaging them. And they found that one of the reasons why was likely because of the poor branding that they had. Right? So this is something which, again, I want to share with all of you because this is something that's really happening with a particular firm. And is that something that you're concerned about as well? Yeah. So just two key takeaways. Don't work with any digital marketing agency, but work with an agency or a team of people who understand marketing. Because you need to understand marketing first. And then you need to have a team that is proficient in using the digital marketing tools to execute, to basically implement the plans, to implement the strategy, right? And then last but not least, don't neglect your brand. So if your company's brand is you, try to infuse it with your company culture. So with your brand, so that you can better manage, retaining, hiring of better staff, or maybe, is there a LinkedIn story that you can share to help build that further allure of what your brand is, right? But I think the other key thing that I mentioned as well, using the Coca-Cola the Coca-Cola example, is that can your brand pivot now if there was a black swan event? A black swan event, the event that you're fearing the most about, right? And can you start to identify what are the so-called unknown unknowns to consider the importance of your brand? So what I'm trying to instigate here is to think about situations where that you can't even fathom that could happen. I'm not talking about zombie apocalypse. I'm talking about situations that could cause your consumers or your clients to say, nope, not interested anymore. What could that be? And how could you then use whatever tools you have available to manage that? If not, what must you do to be able to manage that if that were to happen? Okay? So with that, remember the simple Venn diagram with these four important circles. And always remember that digital marketing and branding aren't at odds, they are complementary. So there's no real versus, it's actually a complementary situation between digital marketing and branding. So with that, guys, thank you so much for listening. And I hope you found this interesting. I hope it stimulates conversations in your head, and hope it would, most importantly, would it stimulate conversations amongst your team members, and I hope it would. And if you've got questions, please feel free to direct message to Dorothy, or I think there is, I would believe there is instructions right now in chat how to actually send messages or questions for the panel later in a short while to answer, right? So with that, guys, thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a pleasant afternoon and a good week ahead. Thank you, guys. Cool. Hi guys, sorry, I forgot to mention one thing, that working with Zulu, they plan to actually roll out a B2B digital marketing program. This is the reason why I'm also here to help give you some incentive or motivation to actually do this. So there will be a day 1 on digital marketing fundamentals and a day 2 on digital marketing implementation. Now, please reach out to Dorothy. Her email is there on screen, or you can just send her a direct message on the Zoom chat right now. Okay? So with that, guys, thank you so much, and thank you for listening.
Hi, thank you, Nick, for this sharing session with us as a practitioner. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in the Q&A sessions. Joining Nick, myself, is Michael from Convergent. Convergent is a company that distributes about 30 global brands of products in these regions. And also Dorothy, a marketing experience for many years in both MNC and SME. Now, allows me to kick off the session asking the first question to Nick.
Oh, okay.
Okay. As a compliment, I think you and I are in the same generations.
I don't think that's a compliment. just joking.
The day where we will have to search for information manually using telephone book,
Correct.
the yellow page.
That's right.
Yeah. And today is very different. You know,
True.
with the digital marketing, the keywords people always use is Google.
True.
And that makes the business very much different. And the prospectings are very different from social media. What do you think as a business owner, they needs to go for more learning before they can make their business better?
I think lifelong learning is important, right? And it's not just mouthing a common line that's used right now. I think it's important regardless. I think learning how to use new platforms, learning how to use new platforms to enhance your business in terms of, in this case, we're talking about marketing, for digital marketing. I think that's key. And it's not just, the thing in today's environment, right? It's not just only learning how to use Facebook Ads Manager or Google Ads. It's also learning how to use Google Analytics or a web analytics, learning how to use the marketing automation tools out there like a CRM solution. So it's a lot of areas that you need to try to pull together to understand. And I mean, for one person to know everything is quite, it'd be amazing, I would say awesome to that person. But I think when there is a team of people to understand that, that's even better. But yeah, I think it's important to have that lifelong learning.
All right. So do you think that, in other words, it could have increased the manpower instead compared to the olden days?
I think it would, if done properly, it will actually reduce, right? Because you can work smarter.
That's right.
You would hear stories, and it's all and sometimes then you get nuggets and snippets of information in news, how business owners can be more efficient in just learning simple digital tools, digital marketing tools. And I think that's important to know. And then how can you then use such ability to up your game if you are an SME, right, or a bigger size SME, right? And I'm sure it's definitely possible. It's about just structure. How do you structure your team to be able to use such a tool or such digital marketing tools?
Yeah, to add on to this is that for us in Zulu, what we're particularly doing right now is that we have a digital academy, courses, so to help all the SME out there. Yeah, so like it can be a basic course about digital workplace, which currently government is like heavily subsidized, and then we also have other, like right now, a while ago, Nick was sharing with all of you, B2B digital marketing. That's what we wanted to help, as in to support the SME market to move into really what we call it as digital transformation. Yeah.
Sounds like a very expensive course.
Oh no. So if you're later on,
Okay, we'll get to that.
Yes, we can share more about all this. Just drop me an email. I will share with you all the available courses.
So today we are so glad to have Michael in this session. Michael is in Convergence and dealing mostly with B2B. And this is one of our key drive in the industry, because we think that, I think in the recent DHL, one of the white paper is published, the B2B market compared to a B2C market is about 3 times. So that's a very exciting market for people to go in. So we already seen a lot of excitement in B2Cs ever since COVID. I think in any events, if you do not speak about COVID, it's not a real event. Yeah, so I have a question for Michael. So what marketing does Convergent currently conduct? Maybe you would like to share your experience in terms of the product launched, some co-marketing issues, or maybe user conference. Yeah.
Oh, marketing is a large area, as Nick has shared. Convergent is a distribution company. We distribute over 30 brands to famous stores that you see today, like Challenger, Harvey Norman, Best Denki, and also all of Simeon Square, Funan Center, and everybody in the outskirts also. So, as a distribution company, we work with principals, people like Garmin, WD, Sanders, and also we work with the retailers. So, marketing from all the way from the inception of the product to the research, the market research, and also to the advertising and to the sales. We collaborate very closely in various degrees with the principals and also with the retailers and also direct marketing to the consumers. So a lot of our marketing work is done in collaboration and not led by us, and it is really a waste if we do the marketing by ourselves, not synchronizing with our principals and everybody else. So it's actually much more a collaborative effort, and we have our marketing team. It's growing. So mostly we are focusing on digital marketing, but also for consumer marketing using other channels like TV, radio, and stuff like that. That's basically handled more by the principals, the brand owners. Okay, but we also complement them and help them in whatever way they need us to. So depending on the product and depending on the events, like what you said, product launches and stuff like that, the degree of collaboration with all parties is different. Yeah.
I see.
So yeah.
I think I pick up some of the pointers you have mentioned is the collaborating. Looks like to be successful, the collaborating becoming a lot more important.
That's right.
How do you see this collaborating is happening within Singapore? Would you like to give an example?
Well, in our company specifically, most of the collaboration is overseen by what we call a product manager. The product manager is the person who is the contact window, the liaison between our company and with the manufacturer. So synchronization of the collaboration is done by the product manager. But many times speed is very important. For example, the ding dong which you have when intellectual property is used. So for that one, the marketing department actually steps in directly to do the synchronization of the collaboration between the PR company, the advertising agency, the influencers, and also the brand owner.
Okay.
Right.
So we have some questions coming in. Cool. So one of the questions was, how should small entity compared to Amazon participate and benefits from digital marketing and branding? Maybe Nick want to make comments.
Can you repeat that again?
How should small entity, means small SME, compared to Amazon, participate and benefits from digital marketing and branding? How?
I think the key thing is that in that kind of marketplace, it's going to be very competitive, right? And because it's competitive, how are you going to make sure that your brand and your offering stands out amongst the sea of other similar kinds of players? So that's where your brand needs to differentiate. I think more importantly, your product also needs to differentiate as well. I mean, what product are you putting out to market vis-a-vis the other competitors that you have? Sorry, it's a very generic answer, but I think by knowing more about what you do, I can give a more meaningful reply. I hope that is sufficient for now.
Okay.
Yeah. But please feel free to, send more of your questions over. If you need a more meaningful reply, and we can take it offline as well.
That's right.
Yeah. Because maybe you're afraid to share more in the live session.
Maybe if a question that's coming in for maybe Dorothy can pick it up.
Yeah.
Where do you see the difference when it comes to B2B or B2C market in the terms of branding?
In terms of brandings, I would say that it depends on which market that you are in. When we talk about B2B, yeah, because all along I've been in B2B most of my, my career. So, wholesaler, are you representing different brands, or are you actually having your own brand? Like, I work in the SaaS company, which we have our own software that we sell. Yeah, so it has different approach to it. Yeah, so like for me is that I just want to conclude it in a way is that what we should be looking at is about content. Now, how do we come up with engaging content that helps the customers? Yeah, talking about content, you were wondering, okay, so what kind of engaging, which I think Nick already have shared earlier on persona, getting to know your customers, collecting data about all these different kind of understanding. Yeah, in that buying journey, okay, are we looking at, top of the funnel or middle of the funnel or at the bottom of the funnel? So what different kind of content that we can slip in to actually attract customers and eventually become a qualified leads that we are looking at. So very boils down, whether it's B2B and B2C, it really depends how much effort do you want to put in to collect that data and to have that engaging content to attract the right pool of target market that you're looking at.
Yep. So there's another question that is coming in, and I believe that maybe this is companies that have worked with some traditional way of campaigning. The question is, email campaign has been used in digital marketing, but today it's becoming more challenging due to a few factors. I quote, spam, PDPA. Do you think it's still effective? And in what situation maybe we should not use it?
Yeah, so if you're looking at running marketing activity, okay, I'm not going to use the agency term of campaigns. So running a marketing activity, if that activity requires you to say maybe sell a product or say get people to attend an event, right? Then who are you going to reach out to? So the low-hanging fruit would be your own database, right? So you're still going to use your own database to get to that, to try to engage them and to get them to convert. But then that won't be the only way they do to fulfill that objective.
Okay.
So there could be other ways as well. And what would be other ways? I think come for the program now.
Okay. So
That's right.
adding on to this question from this person, maybe I'd like to hear from Mike.
Yeah, I think, yeah, okay. Cool.
So mobile platform is becoming a lot more common and important. Email tends to be a little bit more like desktop, so mobile platform. What is your experience in getting out the message through a mobile platforms?
Wow. Recently, as you can see, companies like Lazada and Shopee, they have rolled out their ads, the apps to the iOS and Android eco. And through these apps, they are able to push messaging through to all the consumers, and it's extremely effective, I think. I think Amazon has an app too, but I don't think they leverage on it as heavily as Lazada and Shopee.
Sure.
So I think that the future of messaging to consumers, B2C, would be this kind of app ecosystem. And when you have those special mega sales days like 7799, 1010, wow, during those times you can see your app go crazy. Yeah. So
in fact,
I think that's perfect. Yeah.
I think just to add on to what Mike just shared, right? It was an interesting insight that Mike shared about how for Amazon, people don't use the app that much compared to Lazada or Shopee. Partly because the rollout of the solution was actually through a mobile app for Lazada and Shopee. So the behavior again, or the habits of the consumer was very much mobile app. Whereas for Amazon, it was very much a website. Desktop, correct. So if you were to see I think the key thing is for all of you listening in, the entry point is very important. When was the original entry point? And then to understand that behavior itself. So yeah, you're going to say something?
I'm talking about that. Everyone is talking about omni-channels. talking about, getting orders, whether is it not only apps, but also on messaging apps like WhatsApp, WeChat, Telegrams, all this, and Facebook Messenger, or even from live chatbot. So these are the many ways that people are reaching out to the brands. So then what about what have we done? Is that traditionally everyone will be on a handphone trying to reply every single WhatsApp or WeChat that comes in. But right now there are automation software out there to help us to collate everything into one pager and then eventually pumps it into your CRM. So that is very important when we talk about digitization. Here, especially for the SME, if you are out there, using all these different applications, what are your back ends look like at this moment? Is it that we have to have 5 people just to replying all the messages, or is it that you go through automation that what we have done for our customers is that we synchronize all the data in, so that a salesperson, typically a salesperson, what kind of information they need? Maybe they want to know that whether this customer comes in from the web store, the chat, or is it from WhatsApp? What has been transpired? Or that if they comes in with a complaint, then where is this store? Then do I have to go to the different department and knock down and say, hey Dorothy, what campaign have you run? Oh, so and so, okay, customer complaint, how have you handled? But every data will be synchronized and integrated into our CRM. And eventually, with a few clicks, they are able to see the history. That will help the salesperson. And for marketer, it is going to be extremely helpful, because then when we talk about personalization, targeting, it is so helpful with all the data. Then we can send in that right message. And that's what I call it as the engaging content.
In fact, if I could just add on to what Dorothy mentioned. Sorry, Mike, you want to go first?
No, go ahead.
Okay, great. So remember, Kenneth, you asked me earlier about how companies can actually be more efficient, right? What Dorothy just mentioned is that's exactly it. The marketing automation solutions is key to bringing down the headcount, but more importantly, to make a headcount more effective, more efficient. Right. But
I'd
Mike,
like to share one part of it. And when Dorothy mentioned all this, I also reminded of the back end that we have. When people use the Amazon app or Lazada app to chat, to chat, or maybe your Facebook business or and WhatsApp business to chat. Just go to the Lazada and the Shopee chat. When people key in questions, somebody is doing the back end.
yes, that's right. That's
Somebody.
right.
We would like it to be a bot, but the API doesn't exist yet from these providers. And if Lazada and Shopee are listening, if you just have one chat to run, it's fine. But if you have 30 brands and you run 20 stores,
That's right.
We have to open 20 windows to answer the chat. So it's an impossible task. It's getting impossible. So I encourage the people who own the app platforms for e-commerce to have a rational API, so we can actually concatenate a lot of these chat ability to be usable by at least something like a call center,
That's right.
Right, a call center with 5 or 6 or maybe even 20 people combined together, because otherwise it will be a heroic task.
Well, I think I totally agree with Mike. And it's always interesting that every crisis brings another new opportunity. Yeah. So like what you say is if Shopee and Lazada is listening, the new bot will be coming up very soon.
Not necessarily a bot, but just make a better chat
That's right.
back end.
Yeah. An API that can connect it and then pump into a...
You might get an email soon.
Okay, so I adding on some of the before I get to another question that was posted. So just now I think Mike mentioned about Lazada, the e-market space itself, and Convergent is a distributor. Then where do you see the branding of Convergence, filling up this e-market space? Is it becoming more important or less important?
I think Convergent in the perspective of B2C, the Convergent branding is pretty irrelevant. Okay, I mean, using the e-commerce platforms, the convergent branding is unimportant. But what our branding is important is not the B2C branding, it's the business to, the distributor to principal level, okay, where we actually brand ourselves as we having immense scale, okay, to enable the e-commerce for them, okay, and not only e-commerce, the distribution. So since we have 30 brands and we have huge teams, okay, we have scale to actually help them lower their costs and stuff like that. Whenever they want to do whatever their e-commerce or their the normal offline
this is
distribution.
interesting. I pick up one of the words that just now Nick has mentioned. Business pivots itself. I can see that right now convergence has pivots to in the business directions in the e-commerce. I think e-commerce was never exist for much longer time.
Actually, we engage in e-commerce not only direct to the consumer, that's not so interesting to us, but we actually enable with our marketing team, we actually create content and help all manner of other platforms, for example, KSO, Chris Shop Online, and all Challenger, Gain City, Best Denki, they all have, Challenger has Hachi and Gain City has its own platform, all have e-commerce platforms. Okay, so it's important that the graphic assets and stuff like that and the campaign and strategy is all coordinated between all the stores for all of Singapore. So that's another of our important roles that we play for the manufacturer and for the brand owner, okay? And for we collaborate with the brand owner for the effective sales for all our customers' e-commerce platforms too, right?
It's always exciting to see some questions coming in, particularly maybe it's questions that are industry that we are not too familiar, at least for me. This question says this: how can maritime company specific to marine fuel suppliers stand out in digital marketing?
Wow.
How can we brand ourselves?
Well, it depends on which area of marine industry that you're referring to, because I think there are many segments or sectors within the marine industry itself, if I'm not mistaken. And I think how then is your solution different from your immediate competitor, right? I'm pulling from a learned experience of trying to, when I deal with new clients and I talk to them about their business, right? And if they ask me, Nick, how can I brand myself? How can I ensure that that my product that I'm representing is different in the market that I'm fighting in? Because you guys think about it this way: when you are in the ecosystem that you're in, it's a battle. It's a constant war that you have. The war is that you're trying to ensure that the clients you're trying to gain is not acquired by your immediate competitor, right? So this battle is always happening. So what are you doing to ensure that doesn't happen to your brand? And in terms of digital marketing, how can that help you? Well, the thing is this: your clients that you're trying to win from your competitors, how are they using digital marketing? Or how are they on the digital marketing universe itself? And I think that's a conversation that, to be able to understand the category that you're in marine, which industry sector of marine that you're in, and to learn more about your industry for me to be able to give a more meaningful answer. Otherwise, then, whatever answer I give from this point onwards, you will not buy it.
So do you see that it's more like trying to get them into a blue ocean strategy?
Yes, definitely. I mean, you're right in saying that. And I think there's an iterative process that I do. And I think, Kenneth, you've been through that. Is to understand the blue ocean or the relative blue ocean of your business, you see, in relation to, and that's always benchmarked against your competitor or your industry that you're in. But having said that, I think the key to answer your question is that, and for me to be able to give a meaningful answer, is how are your clients, how are they present on digital media? Yeah. And then to be able then to work out a solution that will be beneficial to your business, you see. I think again, I have to say this, that you got to contact Dorothy to get in touch with me, and maybe do come for the program. And I think one thing I like about running programs with the different institutions and direct clients that I work with is that I tend to work based on a very consultative approach because it's quite fun for me. I mean, I love troubleshooting. I love problem solving. That's in my nature. And do contact Dorothy and let's see what we can do.
Yeah. I just want to add on a bit is that you really have to know your customers. Like for example, when what do you call this, Grab Foods first started, their target market wasn't the hawker center. Why? Because most of the hawker center, the first gen, they don't even know what is apps. Yeah, so to do digital marketing through apps is like, for the hawker, it's not really possible at that moment. So that's why they go and hit onto the restaurant first. Then after that, they do up their back end, digitalize the whole back end together with the digital marketing. Then eventually, when the whole process of the operations runs so smoothly, then they go into educate and start asking, hey, is there any second gen hawker people out there that they can know how to use app, or younger, those hawker, then they start to introduce it into the different hawker center. If not, the adoption will be slow.
So do have a question coming in. The question says, what's the typical challenge for digital marketing for SME and how to overcome it? Maybe Dorothy can add some pointers to this.
I think most of the time for the SME, many times like what we have mentioned earlier on, the skill set, then how big the department has to be, and eventually how do we effectively support the different departments. Because digital marketing is it's not something that we fancy, and then as a marketer we just want to push out the brand only. Eventually, SME business owner will come in, and talk to me and say that, hey, so what are the ROI? How do we look at making it more effective to bring in leads? So which I have touched on a little bit earlier on, that to bring in leads is not about only the activities that we are going to put in, but it also depends on understanding the buyer's journey. So are they at the awareness stage, or are they at that evaluation stage? So what exactly do you know your customers? Which area, which segment are you targeting at? And that particular segment, are you at that, trying to give them information because they are mostly in the awareness stage? That will tie back to that, what I meant by the top of the funnel. How do we attract more people coming into the top of the funnel? It's really about giving information like, getting them to be aware of your brand, getting to let them know that in this particular market, you are strong in what area, what are you doing, producing ebooks or even blogs that is easily digest, so that it becomes a lead magnet that draw people in. Then eventually, do you want to move into, you have to move into the middle of the funnel where you start to do what? Start to be an industry leader. You start to produce ebook that are more in-depth, blogs that goes into how to do, and then how effective, and tips to help people. And then build up the whole ecosystem. Like what we have done is that, Digital Academy Center to really help to build the whole ecosystem to be more effective. Because in a lot of us is that we don't want the customer to just one time buy off and that's it. We want repeated customers. So we need them to be, we continuously need to engage them, continuously need to help them to, I would say, upskill them. And the most important part is that having automation will actually help us a lot. Because of the manpower, if you have like a robust CRM that can integrate, which I mentioned, a few times already, integrate the chat, integrate with the, the sales module, supplier management module, sales order module, inventory module. Once it's everything integrated, it makes people, at ease because they can gather information quickly, and that the salespeople can do more work.
If I may just add on to what Dorothy just mentioned, I'm actually currently now consulting with some SME owners. And one thing that I found in dealing with some of the SME owners is that they have a strategic mind, which is great. But one thing that they lack is the understanding of digital or of marketing. And once they understand the fundamentals of marketing and also the areas of digital, in other words, an overview of the ecosystem, then they're able to come up with, forgive the army term, an ops plan, basically, right? And then they know how to target and fight that battle against the competitors out there, you see. But without knowing that, it's hard for them to have a meaningful ops plan to battle or to do battle. I think that is the key thing for leaders, to be able to understand the fundamentals of digital and marketing as well.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you. I mean, today there are many tools that makes available.
That's right.
So people should be more concentrated on their business logic to be able to put in a proper, efficient business model so that they could concentrate on building more business than being delayed with because of their business processes, you know. And like what just now Mike has mentioned, that the conversions have become very efficient, and that's why they can be very, very successful.
Yeah.
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 So this is questions from interesting guy. Maybe he wants a job.
Okay.
Who do you use the digital marketing services? Is everything done in house? I'm not
okay.
sure.
Right?
This is live.
Oh, as I said, everything is collaborative.
Yeah.
So we 30 brands, right? So we work with 5-6 PR agencies, many advertising agencies, but we do have a very important core marketing team in our company for them to understand all the packages and all the terms that you guys have spilled out. You know, they understand that, okay, and for them to advise the boss and translate what all this is about for decisions to be made, right? And for us to actually guard our own interest, okay, by actually having the team advise us on what to do and what not to do. Yeah. So it can never be in-house nowadays, especially if you have scale, right?
Should ask the gentleman or the lady to email to Michael.
Yeah.
I just want to add is that it's like a hybrid program that you should be embracing, because why, like what Nick was mentioning, that the management team, so what are you looking at your objective for this, then eventually you can selectively outsource certain areas, like maybe copywriting, and then work with someone to talk about digital marketing. So if everything is to embrace into one department, you need about like 15 people, 20 people. Why? They're data collection, they're digital marketing, you must be an SEO expert, you must be a campaign expert, then video editing, there will be a lot of things going on, to build that brand name and to do that digital marketing content. So that as I work with a lot of SME, for the past 14 years, so what we do is that we selectively see what is our core. Then we build on our core. So my core team, if we are strong in definitely products, that is what we are being employed for. Then what about the non-core things of building content? We can outsource it and then work with the outsourced team.
In fact, Dorothy, what you just mentioned and what Mike mentioned as well, just got me thinking about something which I would like to share as well. And it also just dovetails off the last question that Kenneth, you asked me earlier about the SME owner, right? What can they do? And I think this is actually very real, because in about an hour's time, I'll be having a chat with that particular SME owner, and it's about for her, after I mentored her, now she understands that, this is why it's important to check Google Analytics. This is why it's important to look at how to use email marketing. But without having that appreciation of the ecosystem and what the ecosystem offers, then the strategy also doesn't make sense as well. Because you will know how to implement it, see. But you don't need to know every single area of digital media. You just need to understand how it generally works in order to fit the strategy, right? Or to understand how the strategy needs to be operationalized. So That's, I think, it's key for SME owners trying to understand how to navigate in today's sea of the digital madness that we have in today's
That's
environment.
right.
You know.
Don't just jump on any bandwagon and start thinking that,
And also the other thing is, as well as that, even for an MNC that I'm dealing with right now, that they are also looking into how their marketers can be more aware of how not to be hoodwinked by agencies. Because let's look at it from a very fair point of view. Agencies need to make money. They also they will make recommendations that may not be in the interest of the client. How do you then manage that those kind of issues that's in the self-interest of the agency, when you need to look at your own needs and how to manage those needs and to make sure that the agency works for you.
That's right.
A small contribution to make regarding the question just now, do we do everything in-house? Now, I do have a core marketing team in-house, but I see a transformation in the last 5-6 years in my company.
Okay.
In that we have 82 people in the company, and I guess we have 82 marketeers because how our own people have transformed. For example, salespeople have now also have a marketing function.
Very good.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's
That's
good. Yeah.
right.
And our product managers have a marketing function. So the core marketing team is there. They are not the only marketeers in the
That's
company,
right.
but they coordinate everybody else. So the whole company has actually become everybody in the company has actually become more marketing
Savvy
oriented.
lah.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Mike have just said, because the rest of the, I'm speaking to the marketing folks, the rest of your colleagues are actually your arms and your legs, because they will contribute to all the data that you need, especially if you want your digital marketing campaigns to be effective. Taking for example, someone landed on your e-commerce site, chat with you, whether it's through WhatsApp or live chat. So what's next? The pre-sales, support will be there chatting with them, but in the meanwhile, they can upload all the information into the CRM. Then eventually, it will trigger some keywords, and then the marketing may have received it immediately and say that, oh, this person is interested in this area because of my workflow that I put into the CRM, into the automation, pops. It goes into my email or give me a tingle to say that, hey, there is a particular customer is interested into this particular area. Then immediately I can send an offer to them. Then the salesperson will do the follow-up. So it's become very integrated. So in Zulu, what we have done was that we see that gap, and that's why Zulu DSM 2.0 is out, is because we wanted to support especially the wholesale market into seeing all this automation so that it could help and equip your staff, in doing more meaningful work. And they will be very excited to see that, oh, I contribute into this particular sale. I'm no longer just a support staff, or I'm no longer just marketing job, sales job. Everyone contribute into this particular whole of the company's success.
So I think to add on just now what Dorothy has also mentioned and Mike, it is interesting to see in Nick's presentations about brand, because this topic is about digital marketing and branding, and to use brand as a form to attract and retain talent. I've never thought of that. I think when we talk about branding, it's always a product, services.
True. And the reason why that came to mind when I put it in, right, because there was actually a company that shared with me a situation that happened in their organization, that they found that there were two agency groups, and one group was basically, they're all being paid the same amount of money, right? So the employee arrangements are the same, but just run by two different groups. And what happened was that one group had a different culture compared to the other group. One was actually more caustic, the other one was actually more friendlier. And it so happens that the friendlier outfit, people stayed and did not leave compared to the other group itself. So in the way you look at it, right, your culture, your brand that infuses that culture is very important.
True.
And when you are able to retain talent, you don't have to spend time and additional resources to get new talent. So you save money. At the same time, you're also able to grow a team that is supportive as well. So it is in the long term healthier to the company and to the brand
That's
as
right.
well.
I think if everybody have a piece of ownership, knowing that they are contributing to the success of the company, I felt that will definitely be helpful.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, we get a lot of attractions from Michael.
Wow.
Can you give us your view on your focus of digital marketing for the next 2 years, the future?
Oh.
For us, it's not
Now
a
you need to
competition.
articulate a little bit because this
Yeah.
is your
When you
strategy.
mentioned that conversion is extremely efficient and will just succeed, very successful. That's not really true.
That's really true.
Because we are, I don't know, but I think we have a long way to go in every sector, in automation, in getting all the information into our screens at any one time quickly and stuff like that. So the next 2 years, I mean, besides building APIs to make chatting more important, besides building APIs to actually make the extremely complicated form of, e-commerce finance reconciliation. All this and besides automating packaging, for example, is 3,000, 4,000 packages, for example, is huge.
So it looks like
Right.
it's bigger than just digital marketing.
So we have to do the automation, right? For all these things, and the digital marketing itself. Okay, we have to make it much more efficient by having our teams learn the state of the art, right? And how to integrate various sources of information together,
That's right.
how to form insights and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Might be we have to leverage on AI, machine learning in the near future because there's so much data.
That's right.
Okay. We need some machine learning magic thing in order to simplify all this data for us so that we actually have a good insight on what's happening because the data is getting more and more and it's getting unhandleable, right? And we really need something to make sense of it.
Well,
But
I think
what-
everybody is now facing the era of data, data congestions, data collected but not used.
And not interpreted properly.
Yeah.
Not interpreted properly. We need to have a better interpretation of the data. Maybe we need to hire data engineers, data science guys, to come in and actually help us understand the data that we accumulate, right? So all this is in the vision. Okay, but for the next 2 years, a lot of things will happen.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things will be unanticipated right now.
So currently, is there the most effective way of marketing? Is there a single effective way, in your opinion?
Okay, marketing works, but for somebody with not so much business to hire a marketing team, it's going to be tough, right? So if there's a single factor, which is the most important thing in digital marketing, is scale.
Scale.
Yeah, you really need to have. I mean, if you have large scale, for example, I think having 30 brands is a large scale, and we are growing also. The more scale you have, the easier it is to justify. Okay, hiring the best people, adding to your team, enlarging your team to understand marketing, right? To understand and execute the marketing that we do.
In fact, to add to Michael's point about scale, right? I think Dorothy, you talked about it earlier, right? About marketing automation.
That's right.
How that can actually help scale your business.
That's right.
From a small SME, as you grow up in size, marketing automation will help you grow as well. Right?
That's right. So adding to that is that what we want to do is that leverage on some of this automation, and then have a little bit of understanding what digital means to your company. Definitely, in marketing, there's a lot of trial and error. So I would say that we will have to set on the right mindset. What are the objectives we are looking at? Are we only just want to start off with building awareness because you come from a ground zero? Then building awareness will be the starting point. Then eventually, generate qualified leads. Then what is the next step? So these are the different steps that we need to engage, and to understand where you are. Like for conversion, 30 brands, definitely they need a solid, I would say, marketing department so that it will be able to, support all the brands and eventually get that very cohesive and not only cohesive stickiness with the customers, so that all the brand's principal will be running after them and say that, hey, I want to work with you because I saw what you have done. You have built a good community that making the customer sticky to you. Yeah, so that can be one of the way that they are looking at. But as I mentioned, it really depends on industry and trial and errors. A lot of trial and errors that you need to do. Start small, and then try it out. Like email marketing first. Yeah.
So just going to jump in a little bit on the last word you used, Dorothy. You mentioned about trial and error.
Yeah.
So in digital marketing, we call it optimization.
Yeah.
So see it as experimentation. You need to experiment and you need to optimize those experiments.
And then in engineering, we call it agile.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Eventually, like what Nick mentioned, you will definitely find a sweet spot. Yeah.
And in some homes, you call it parenting, I think.
Parenting.
So we're coming to the end of the session, but I still have time to pick up one last question from the ground. And this question is directed to Nick. What are some good software or system that could help and manage digital marketing more effectively?
Oh, I think, is there any qualification?
No,
Nothing?
it's just I think in general. I saw that there in your presentation there's a lot of vocabulary, technical.
Oh, I see. Okay. So I think so at a very low level, at the starting point, right? If you're a startup or you've got a small business, you're looking to at least make sure you got Google Analytics deployed to your website. Make sure that you have got, that you are able to use or know how to use Google Ads, because you want to have some form of marketing to a digital universe itself. Make sure you know how to use social media platforms. In particular, or if it's a business crowd, then it's going to be LinkedIn more than anything else. If you've got a community on Facebook, then be familiar with Facebook Ads Manager at least, right? So these are things that you may want to slowly understand. But since you have a website, the key thing is that to also know and be familiar with search engine optimization.
Yes, right.
And there's some tools you can use to audit your own website. So for example, you can go and download a free copy of Screaming Frog Spider. Right? It's a very popular and well-known tool for SEO it's Screaming Frog Spider. Okay, it's free to download. So and it's for both Mac and for desktop as well, or Windows. So these will be the initial immediate tools to actually use.
Yeah. So it also depends on, like, if you are going into email marketing, then definitely there are a lot
many
of
tools,
many tools out there.
MailChimp,
Get Response.
ActiveCampaign,
ActiveCampaign and HubSpot will be a little bit more
More
comprehensive.
CRM,
More
CRM
comprehensive
based.
because it allows a lot of tagging, a lot of tracking, and then it's
Lead
more
scoring
comprehensive.
as
That's
well.
right.
Correct.
So it depends on which stage are you in. Maybe start off with MailChimp first for the start, and then start to look into Active Campaign and other stuff. Yeah.
And then you can progress to Zulu solution.
Yeah.
So,
That's right.
We've come to the end of the session today. I thanks Nick for spending the time with
Thank
us
you
in
for
this
welcoming
session. Yeah, it's very elaborative. I'm very impressed with the information that you have presented. I also like to thank the panel members.
You're welcome.
Mike, being quite popular in the ground questions, and also Dorothy.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So thanks for spending this afternoon with us on this event on the topics of digital marketing and branding.
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. Thanks everyone too. Yeah.
See you guys. Have a good week ahead.
Yeah.
All right.
Are we?
We
Oh, okay.
we have the session with Nick earlier on. With the session with Nick earlier on sharing with us on the topics of digital marketing, and I have a slides as a concluding slides as digital marketing and branding. It is always a tug of war. It is always a tug of war to decide what is important. And I think that maybe both is important. Both is important. All right. So, as Zuru would actually always support the skilled talents, and I like what Nick earlier has mentioned, the branding itself has an impact to talents retentions. So Zulu, working with Capella Academy, we're launching Skill Future Digital Workspace. This is a program that Dorothy had earlier mentioned a little bit. What is going to be in these programs is to be able to enhance the learning of productivity tools, remote teams, cybersecurity, fake news handling, and the harnessing of some technologies involving the day-to-day life of the working space. In this program, it's actually a 2-day program. You get to see clips of various popular software or platforms that is being in use by many people today. The popular ones would include Zoom, as you have already been used today. So now what is important is to get some thoughts and important information about these programs. Now, as in these slides, there are 2 sessions that will be coming up and webinars that will be an introductory of what the program workshop is. And this program itself is actually a workshop for 2 days. And for the Singaporeans and the PR, it only costs you $50. Just $50. Not forgetting that the companies will still benefit from absentee payroll grant. So this is a very valued academy that we are promoting in conjunction with Capella. So with that, I'd like to thank, ladies and gentlemen, everybody's on the internet that has came to join us. And again, I'd like to thank the panels that has joined us this afternoon. With that, we end the sessions on the topics of digital marketing versus branding. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
See you
Thank
guys.
you.
See you.
Bye.